Ahoy! The new world dev Q&A for April answers some interesting questions and teases some upcoming content, so let's get into it. The first question was if there will be solo dungeons specifically. The devs said they have no specific plans to do that, but they want to put more effort into solo content, which will be coming in the next 6 to 9 months. For example, there will be a new soul trial in the future main story quest revamp. There is already a new soul trial, a 1v1 boss essentially, in the recent revamp that came in Season 1, and they want to do more like that. The next question was if there will be any party UI improvements for party visibility. They definitely want to do that, but have no date for that yet, and their plan is to update nameplates and party visibility. When it comes to game performance issues, especially in cities, the devs are aware of those and are constantly working on optimization, though they didn't have anything specific for the cities that they pointed out here. Though they are aware of the performance issues caused by ice gauntlets in Wars and OPR, which they are currently working on and which they expect to be fixed quickly. Somebody wanted to know if we can get more umbral shards from the PvP track. They're offering us something even better. They're revamping the PvP reward track from level 1 to 20. The goal is that this should put you into a great position to start endgame PvP, and that includes more umbral shards. Now, I'm particularly curious about this answer because it doesn't really explain what will happen to people that have already done those first 20 levels. Maybe they will get some form of reset, maybe they'll be added at the end, or maybe none of those things apply. So that one is a bit up in the air, and in the previous Q&As it sounded like they wanted to do more of a major overhaul to the entire PvP track. So maybe that's just going to be a PvP track reset of some kind. I don't know how this is going to go down, but we will have to wait and find out what exactly the plan here is. The next question was if the Sandworm Elite trial will have different difficulties. Initially, this will not be the case. The Sandworm will be accessible by everyone, and there will be one version, and this is planned to be really hard. They're describing this as a true challenge, which they've never said about any other content they've made before, so let's find out how hard it's going to be. They say in return, those who actually manage to beat it will also get awesome rewards. When they are raising the gear score further down the line, which is not too far away to be honest, they may soften out the Sandworm a little bit and revisit it and see if they maybe make it more accessible. But we also know that in the future there will be some form of raid mutator coming, so that will increase the difficulty once again. Next question, how will mounts be relevant with so many fast travel shines? They think that both are just different ways to get around the world, and effectively they kind of support each other, supplement each other in a way. And also they're just cooler, mounts are just cooler to use. In the far future they are considering to see if all of the shrines that they added are necessary, but for now they have planned these fast travel points with mounts in mind already. They were aware that mounts were in the work when they placed these fast travel points. Mounts are more than just means to an end to them, and they want to make them fun. They also said specifically that this allows players to show off that they got to the mountain and got the riding skill up. I'm not sure if this is just a figure of speech or if there is actually something related to a mountain that we'll have to do for getting our riding skill up, so that's going to be another interesting part. But I'm very curious. We know already that the riding will be a full trade skill in itself. So it does seem like we'll have to put some work into it, though I would imagine at least one part is just riding mounts for a long time to increase the riding skill. We were asked if they would bring back old Twitch drops like Golden Rage and Indigo Flame for new players. I personally would be surprised if they actually end up doing exactly that, because it would seem odd that the kind of rare collectibles would then be accessible for everyone again, because that would kind of take away the purpose, I suppose. But what they said is they're planning to unvault some of the items, and they don't really have anything to share yet, except they are thinking about making a new version of the Indigo Flame Ice with a different color. So basically the original version would keep its rarity, its collector status, but other people would have the option to have burning ice as well as a skin, which I think would be cool, because I always thought that the Indigo Ice effect looked cool, but I would also rather have it in another color. And obviously you can get the one from Isabella, which will probably also work for Transmog, but you can't get it in other colors yet, so we'll see what happens to that. Somebody asked if Eternum is just a simulation made by the ancients, and the response was, that is a theory. A big question that is currently, I think, on a lot of people's mind was if they are planning to remove Ward and Banes, or maybe transform them into one single type or something. There have been tons of suggestions like that. They say they have no concrete plans yet, but they hear the feedback and they agree with it. They're looking at options, but no definite statements yet. They're not going to say they're going to remove awards or anything at this point. They're just trying to figure out what to do with it. What they do point out is that it creates a prep problem that's more than most people want to deal with, because you have to deal with so many different types of wards and Bane. This is obviously a bit of a difficult situation insofar as well that if you don't need any of these sets and everyone is just running the same stuff, it is much quicker to gear up, because you're just basically looking for one set and one best in slot set for everything as well. The demand for best in slot weapons, for example, would go up massively because you don't need all the different Bane type weapons, so every weapon would be ridiculously expensive, and everyone would be very quickly geared for M10, and then would be very quickly able to farm M10s of various mutations without having to invest into individual gear, which would significantly change the progression curve in many ways. And they didn't really address this, but I think it's worth pointing out that at the moment a fair bit of the late game in New World is working on your gear and improving your gear in terms of ward and Bane for all those different types. So taking that away entirely would be weird, at least in terms of how it would feel for progression, even though I can understand the side of casual players or players that don't have that much time to invest into the game, of not wanting to level all the ward sets. So it's going to be a very difficult split for the devs here, and I'm interested to see what they can figure out for that. If they can maybe do some form of reset with the gear score increase that will somehow make this work and make this work more effectively. But yeah, it's a complicated one, and I'm very curious to see where it goes. The question by Countess Hero was if we can have an option to only choose PvE quests for the season pass and the stamp card more specifically. The devs say that cards were designed to not force you to do all of them, which is understandable. So they say they don't think it's necessary, but they also understand the completionist issue. I think there are better solutions here that would kind of take away the frustration of not completing a card, but nearly completing it. And I think there is something that can be done here without making it purely PvE or purely PvP. I will discuss that in a future video, so consider subscribing and clicking the bell if you're interested in that. But there was also a teaser for the upcoming Balance of Power video, which is important in two ways. First of all, the teaser itself was talking about changing the intensity of enemy spell VFX in wars and OPR especially. So it's going to be still visible as enemy spells, but not quite as drastic as it is at the moment, which is very visually cluttering. Along with that, this also means that we're going to get the Balance of Power fairly soon, which is great news because it probably means that the balance patches that have been announced are not far away either. I would imagine that that will be released right around that time or shortly after the Balance of Power show, after they've discussed what they're changing and why. This would also line up very well with this roughly being a month after the patch, which is the pace at which they want to do these Balance of Power changes. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Something you can look forward to is an in-depth expedition guide for the new patch in the next days, since that is what I've been working on for the past few days. If you're interested in early trading tips that will be in a video later, then consider supporting me on Patreon. Thanks to all my patrons who already do this, and thank you for watching. SLOTH out.